Welcome back, guys, to the channel. The Game Bro. We're going to check out the 2021 Hungarian GP. 2 weeks removed from the events of the British GP, F1 comes into Hungary for the Hungarian Grand Prix. So much banter between Mercedes and Red Bull, including deeper investigations, many public statements, and the media just trying to ramp up the drama worse than Netflix. Who would now have the upper hand in the title battle going into the summer break? And what would be the long-term ramifications of the Silverstone accident for Red Bull? Let's jump into the action. Starting off FP1 Friday morning, the session saw a few spins, but coming off worst was Yuki Tsunoda going off at 4, backing the AlphaTauri into the barriers. Verstappen ended the session first ahead of Bottas and Hamilton, with both Ferraris looking good. We also got to see Robert Kubica stand in the Alfa Romeo. FP2 started a few hours later, and the Mercedes took a 1-2 with Bottas ahead of Hamilton and Verstappen, struggling with the balance of his Red Bull in third. Big lap by Ocon to wind up fourth too, as the session saw some hotter temperatures. FP3 started off with young Schumacher finding the barriers hard, destroying the left side of his Haas. We saw an unsafe release of Giovinazzi into the side of Stroll, and then was in the way of Gasly on a flying lap. Hamilton would wind up P1 with Verstappen second and Bottas third, Ferraris climbing back onto the better part of the timing sheets, fourth and fifth. On to qualifying. In Q1, George Russell misses out on Q2 for the first time all year, as well as the struggling Yuki Tsunoda. In Q2, the session was red flagged after Carlos Sainz backed the Ferrari into the final corner wall, and Ricciardo again disappointing, missing Q3. Fuck. Q3 saw the first runs really count, as Hamilton's 1:15.419 will stand up through the rest of the session by 0.3 over Bottas and half a second over Verstappen. On the final runs leaving the pits is where the real games begin. Max leaves behind Lewis, crawling down the pit lane, and all the outlap really compromising the final runs. Lewis held up the Red Bull duo enough that Perez did not start his lap before the clocks hit 0, still winding up fourth. Gasly again impressed by putting himself in fifth ahead of Norris and Leclerc, with the Alpines of Ocon and 40-year-old Fred, and Vettel rounding out the final 10. It's Sunday, it's race day, and has all the looks to be a Mercedes 1-2 snoozer, with maybe the Red Bull splitting the Mercedes. But it started to rain a bit before the race, and with the potential to be heavier before drying out. This saw teams opting to start on the intermediates, with gambling on slicks not looking to be that good. Brundle is away again, racing at Silverstone, so we get the bias shitster Nico Rosberg alongside Crofty this week. It's lights out and away we go into one, with Lewis getting away clean. Bottas gets a poor start, gets sandwiched by Norris and Perez, and then outbrakes himself into the back of the McLaren bad. This melee caused Norris to collect Verstappen, Bottas colliding with Perez and Lance Stroll coming down the inside, spearing Leclerc's Ferrari and causing some damage to a spinning Daniel Ricciardo. Verstappen continues to the pits as the red flag is out, with retirements of Norris, Bottas, Perez, Leclerc, and Stroll. During the red flag period, the Red Bull team do a great job just getting Max back out there, while the rain has stopped and the track dries quickly under the sun. During the formation lap, it's apparent that slicks are the way to go, and the entire field minus Hamilton pitting for the slick compound tires. In a sight never seen before, Lewis is the only car on the grid to start the race, with the others waiting on the pit exit. Lewis gets away and would pit the same lap for slicks, thus handing the lead to Esteban Ocon, who missed a spectacular accident as Stroll flew up the inside. Russell would have to drop back to 7th as he jumped the queue at the pit exit, and Hamilton would drop all the way to the last of the runners. Latifi being up in 3rd would hold up everyone on back until the pit stops, letting Ocon and Vettel just kind of pull a big gap on 3rd back. A few laps after, Mazepin's race would end due to an unsafe release and contact with Kimi Räikkönen, leading to a 10-second stop-go penalty. We got to see Verstappen and Schumacher have a good battle, and really getting to see some of the racecraft from the German against the aero-limited Red Bull. Big moment in the title fight of the race. On lap 21, Lewis undercuts Verstappen and Ricciardo to not get stuck behind them. I would have loved to have seen those two go at it with the damaged Red Bull, especially after Silverstone. During the leaders' pit stops, Vettel gets close to Ocon with a flying outlap, staying within a second and a half, pressuring Ocon to the end. Hamilton, who made a second stop for fresh mediums, now looks like the race win is still in play, but would be derailed by driver of the day, Fernando Alonso. The defense from the two-time champ was textbook and lasted just long enough to hold up Lewis from making a run for the win, as the pass on Carlos Sainz was much easier. A few laps after, Esteban Ocon becomes the first Frenchman to win a Grand Prix in a French car since Alain Prost. An incredibly popular win, as well as Vettel holding on to second from the charging Hamilton in third. More on that later. Sainz comes home ahead of the fellow Spaniard Fred for 4th and 5th. The AlphaTauris of Gasly and Tsunoda finish ahead of new point scorers Nicholas Latifi and George Russell, with Max finishing P10. Pierre Gasly steals the fastest lap away from Hamilton on the final laps as one last strategy move from Red Bull. Hours after the race, Sebastian Vettel was disqualified for not having enough fuel for a proper sample. Maybe because the FIA didn't like that whole t-shirt deal. But either way, that's what they did, thus changing the order and the points. After this, Lewis retakes the lead in the championship by 8 points over Max, with the 3rd to 5th guys all retiring and no change. In the Constructors, Mercedes takes the lead back from Red Bull by 12 points. With Sainz's podium now, Ferrari and McLaren are tied at 163, continuing a great battle for 3rd. With their awesome weekend, Alpine jumped to 5th ahead of AlphaTauri and Aston Martin. Williams, with their first points, jump into 8th over Alpha and the scoreless Haas, heading into Spa after the summer break. So that was a real cracker of a race, pretty much just proving that anytime the fastest 2 cars get set back or knocked out, you're in for a good time. And that's just what we got. Anytime weather is an issue, that always seems to cause some kind of chaos. And speaking of, 5-place grid drops for Bottas and Stroll and Spa. I don't think that's enough, really. What I would like to see more is, like, give them some 10-second stop-and-go penalties during the race. You know, that'll be a little more costly than, giving Bottas 5 places that he's easily going to make up to where he would probably finish anyway, or wipe out more of the midfield. Not sure. Also, future Red Bull grid penalties after the Saturday night Verstappen engine change, finding a crack from the accident in Silverstone. They're going to try to fix it, but already on their 3rd engine now. Definitely not looking good going into the season when, Mercedes is keeping up their reliability as usual. I always thought that the Honda reliability would come into issue, especially with how they just willy-nilly change shit. Not quite to the 300-place grid penalties they had a couple years ago with McLaren, but, still not on par. The accident on lap 1. I mean, Bottas clearly a little taken aback by getting sandwiched there. Probably misjudged the corner, trying to make it back up. I don't know. The weather also that these guys didn't see all weekend. So their braking points, God knows what they are going into that. And after all this happened, the Mattia Binotto, the Ferrari boss, proves a pretty good point. If an accident can be proven where someone's at fault in a cost cap era, that they should have to pay for the damages, I kind of like that idea, not just being a Ferrari fanboy, but in the consensus of it that, Stroll just blasted his way up the inside and speared the Ferrari, now causing them to have to change to their 4th engine and face their grid penalties at a point. So it kind of makes sense. The Alonso defense on Hamilton was fucking epic. I mean, just as long as that lasted, he knew exactly where to put the car. You saw him, even when he gave up the next corner, just checking up a little bit on the exit to cause Hamilton to have to let off, allowing him to pull away. It was just textbook. I mean, everyone was just in awe. That was the best part of the race. As well as Schumacher getting to show off some good racecraft against Verstappen. I know the Red Bull was heavily damaged, but you got to see Mick go up against these guys and not really have the fear of racing the championship contenders, so that was awesome. And then there's the Mercedes strategy that caused them to be the only car out on the starting grid. It would have been awesome to see him pit and see no one on the starting grid. I'm not sure what the rule is on that. That's a controversy in itself. But either way, I think Mercedes thought that it was going to rain again, and why waste the stop? I don't know, but it looked fucking stupid in the process. But I understand their reasoning behind standing by it. I was on edge the whole race. When it started, I was watching Grand Prix Sunday, and when they were talking, I think it was to Ted, you started to see it sprinkle a little bit. That they got the tents out. You knew shit was going down, and it looked to be heavier, but that heavy rain never came. And then after the race, Vettel's disqualification. I think he had 0.3 liters of fuel, and you need to have 1 liter to measure it. I think that's kind of bogus, but rules are rules. Maybe it was because he was wearing the anti-gay shirt thing that they got going on in Hungary, and they just were looking for a reason to disqualify him. I don't know. But it was great to see him up there. And then for the rest of the year, the championship battle, I mean, it's starting to sway towards Mercedes with the reliability and the bad luck of Red Bull. Like, it's just starting to look like going into the summer break, here comes Mercedes, here comes Hamilton. But how much can they get in ahead of Hamilton? Like, seeing him a little winded up on the podium, he calls it. post-COVID stuff. I mean, I think it's just him being a pussy vegan, but that's my own opinion about his lifestyle. Don't judge me on that. So that's been my thoughts on Lewis Hamilton's lifestyle in the Hungarian Grand Prix. You get to see F1 2021 for the first time. Getting used to the new setups. Nothing like 2020. The rear of the car feels more out of control, but the front definitely feels more planted. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Give me a like, comment, share, subscribe. Watch all my other videos like my Creed music videos, my F1, opinions that you're already watching, and my Game Bro reviews if you have poor humor and just really a lack of time to do anything else in your life. As always, guys, I've been the Game Bro. I'll see you after Spa. Enjoy the summer break wherever you are in the world.